where you explain or expatiate more on will and what the do's and don'ts of making your will and when and when not to make your will actually. For this purpose, I'm going to just go straight. The next of is more like a contact or a notification person. That's the only reason you are putting your next of kin. To be notified when you are ill, when you are incapacitated. Maybe there's a problem, a reason why you are not in a particular place and you need someone to stand in for you. Like Prof said, the person can also stand in for you in that regard. But your next of kin should also be your relative who you trust will make the right decisions for you, just like you will make it if you were the one in the position of the person. Some parents use their children, sometimes maybe you have those 1 or 2 children and they are still under maybe 2-3 years. Now, it's not wrong to use your children, but the question you ask yourself when choosing your children of that age is, God forbid anything happens, because you don't know what tomorrow holds. God forbid anything happens. My child of 3 years, he or she will be able to make a decision when he is notified of something that is happening to you, or if I'm incapacitated. Now, the thing is, when you are choosing your child of that age, let's say less than 18, that's very able to make such decision. Ensure that you have a legal guardian that will guide such child in making those decisions. I'm just giving a thought summary before I go through the slides. The next of kin is also your first point of contact in case of emergencies, illness, death, or legal matters concerning you. Next of kin is not only for death situations, it's for it's also for unexpected life events. Now, we have a typical legal order, though it can vary, but other than law, the first next of kin is supposed to be your spouse. Now, if your spouse is incapacitated or not available or has demands, the next are your children or child. If you don't have a spouse or a child, the next are your parents. If you don't have your parents, the next to be considered are your siblings. If you don't have your siblings, the next are your grandparents, aunts, uncles. The line of succession continues with more distant relationships. If you notice, I don't add friend or best friend in this list, because in as much as you trust a person, there might just be so much that when the time comes for that person to make a decision, that person will not be making a decision in your best interest, but in the best interest of that your friend. So when you are choosing your friend as your next of kin, which is allowed, make sure that you prepare to actually take or get the consequences that will come after such choice is made. The biblical perspective on planning and family responsibility. Now, next of kin is more about planning and also keeping your family in order in times when you are incapacitated or you are not available. The Bible, though it is not specifically states next of kin, but makes certain provisions that we can draw inferences from to understand what God wants us to do in times when we have to choose our next of kin. Ecclesiastes 3 verse 1, let's start from there. Because of time, I don't have anybody reading, but I don't explain what it's about. In Ecclesiastes 3 verse 1, it's a popular verse. The Ecclesiastes 3 tells us there's a time for everything, time to live, time to die. This is a phase, this is a time for us to be alive, time to work, time to sleep, time to do what you need to do at a particular time. I mean, this evening now we're here to worship God. This is the time. By 7 it will be over, we'll move on to the next thing. There's also a time ready to die. And by that time, your question will be, have I prepared my family to ensure that my wishes and everything I want to happen will happen in accordance to how I want it, and there will be no fight, there will be no bloodshed, there will be no conflict when I'm born? That should be your question. It starts from getting your next of kin, actually, before you proceed to getting your will done. Proverbs 13 verse 22 states that a good man leaveth an inheritance to his children's children. Genesis 15:2-3 tells us about Abraham considering Eliezer as a potential heir, which shows cultural flexibility but not fixed law. Then Rules 4:1-10 tells us about the concept of kinsman redeemer, which means responsibility, if not just privilege. The concept of next of kin is more placing just responsibility on the person you have chosen. Responsibility of standing in for you at a particular time, responsibility of calling your family members to say, oh, I just got informed that this has happened, and you need to know. Responsibility of planning certain things for you when you are not there. The Bible also agrees with that. 1 Timothy 5:8 says, anyone who does not provide for their relatives, and especially for their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. For those that want to go and take their friends as next of kin, what about your relatives? What about your family? 1 Timothy 5:8 is talking about us considering our family first. Then we look at the biblical perspective, we look at the legal perspective shortly. In Nigeria, simply being named as the next of kin does not automatically make someone your heir to your estate, to your property. No. Section 45-50 of the Administration of Estates Law of Lagos State specifies the order of inheritance if there is no will. Now, earlier I stated the order, the spouse, or children. This is the backing, the legal backing, section 45-50 of the Administration of Estates Law of Lagos State 2015. Now, that order it occurs when there is no will. That order occurs when there is no will. If you have a will before your demise, and after your demise, of course you register it at the probate registry, and let's say a next of kin that you have made proceeds to get a letter of administration from the probate registry. That next of kin doesn't have authority over your properties as against what you have already provided for in your will. So when the will is read, it could be that the next of kin has something there. It could be that the next of kin does not have anything there. It depends. But by the time you have written your will supersedes whatever letter of administration, whatever court order, whatever authority that has maybe in your lifetime you spoke to somebody, oh, I want to give my son this land. But then your will, you not write that you want to give your son that land. Then that witness, let's say I was seeing that person you told now as a witness, that person comes and says, no, I'm fighting for his son. He said, and you have already told his son, your daddy said he's going to give this land. But the will is saying otherwise. The truth is that no matter the community, if you go to court, that will is going to supersede. So, the order of listing your next of kin is only when there is no will. That is when this section 45 is going to stand. But when there is a will, it's not, you can decide to choose your parents and say, I will everything to my parents. Nobody is going to pay me. So far as you have your will, that's your last wish and it's going to be respected. Okay? The guidelines for micro pension plan 2018 and pension reform act 2014 defines next of kin as an individual named as a contact person in the event of death, missing or emergency situation. We also have some court cases to support this. In Ubene and Ubene, a 2016 case, next of kin does not mean automatic inheritance rights. Then in Apolami versus Adekunle 2018, next of kin forms does not give you legal authority. You know, when you are employed or in bank, you also open a bank account, do your pension funds, you have a section where you write your next of kin. It doesn't mean that you give that person legal authority over your property. No. That is just, they're just writing that name for notification purpose. Have it in mind that whatever happens tomorrow, that person is the first person that is going to be called to say, do you know this person? Come and identify. Oh, are you ready to stand in to do this for this person? Yes. But you cannot. I have a case where the person is the next of kin, was named the next of kin in a bank form. So the owner of the bank account died, and the person went forward to go and say, oh, I'm the next of kin, and I should have access to his account and everything. The bank refused. And that is the right. The bank always give you access to the person's money. You have to, what the bank did that day was to advise the person, oh, go to the probate registry and ask for a letter of administration. then we know which way forward. But the person was not allowed to take or have access to the person's account. Under Central Bank of Nigeria and BOFA, Banks and Other Financial Institutions Act, banks cannot release funds just because someone is next of kin, like I just said. In Nigeria, there is no specific statute clearly stating next of kin the legal right to make health decisions. Now, this is a medical issue. There are sometimes in the hospital, you have some forms where you also feel, I think, say next of kin, right person. But unfortunately, maybe you're in a situation where you're unconscious or you're going to go into surgery and you can't make any decision at that moment. The truth is that the hospital, if they have a form where you visit your next of kin, they will call. If that person is not reachable, the person that going to get the next decision from is the person standing close to your bed. Medical hospitals and all, they don't have that specific statute that tells them you must be that next of kin on that form that you will call. Because if you are waiting for that one that you wrote there, and this other man that is standing here can also give that decision and is a relative, why not ask that person the question to save the life of this other person? So it is not in the medical field that there is a little slight difference when it comes to notifying next of kin. But the general rule is that the next of kin has to be notified because that's the reason the person was put in the first place. But whereby the next of kin is not available, the next person is standing there for you to save the life of the patient has to be informed. Now, the duty of that person as a doctor, you now let the person or not, let the person know that please inform so person that we have gotten, and when you are getting that information or consent from the person, ensure that it's also in writing so that nobody will say that you coerce the person to do or say what they're not supposed to say or do. Next of kin designation in hospital records does not have binding legal power without additional documentation, like the power of attorney. Now, power of attorney is a different documentation or document, a legal documentation that gives someone, let me say the next of kin, the right to take decisions. Now this is very certain, every decision on behalf of you. So I would advise that whenever you are picking your next of kin, also have where you have drafted a power of attorney to give to that person. Whenever you write a next of kin, also notify the person that, oh, you are my next of kin. And this is a power of attorney so that in case, because there are certain institutions when you go and say, oh, you are the next of kin, okay, do you have any power of attorney to prove that you have power to make this decision for this person? And you say you don't have, nothing can be done at that point. At that point, your interest has not been protected. So all of these things is just to protect your interest when you are incapacitated, you are not available, you are not able to make a decision at that time. You should have somebody that is capable enough, trustworthy enough to stand in for you and make a decision that is in your own best interest. Okay, we have a case for that for the hospital for adult trade. Adult trade is the rights of the next of kin. It is important to know that these rights are limited administrative rights and not full legal powers. Next of kin do not have any legal power of any sort to take your property, to do things that are aside from these rights that I'm going to list to us. The first one is right to be notified. Like I said, that's the main reason why the next of kin is chosen for notification purposes. Hospitals, employers, institutions have a duty to inform the next of kin when there are emergencies or deaths. Then the second is the right to make certain requests, non-binding. Requests that are not binding, requests that tomorrow by the time you come, you'll be able to change that request. That's the reason the next of kin can may be allowed